Hey guys, welcome to your part 2 of the unit plan. So this is only for the students that are doing the math unit plan. So for the part 2, you are actually going to be planning 2 lessons. So one of those lessons can be your teaching lesson and you can put it in this format, and then you are going to be designing or planning another lesson around it. So you need to look at the teaks and make sure all your teaks align because they need to be a unit. You cannot choose a teak. Let's say I cannot choose a money teak and then go and choose an algebra teak. That is not going to align, or a geometry teak and a numbers and operation teak. They need to be forming a unit. Okay, so for your first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the teaks and the objective from your teaching lesson here. And then your teaching lesson can be your first lesson or it can be your second lesson. In case it is your third lesson, you still need to be doing at least one new lesson, and then you can just change the 2 to a 3 so that I know that it was a third lesson. So here you already, let's suppose it's your teaching lesson, you already have your learning objectives, you have your teaks. You do not have to do the CCRS, that is only for middle and high school. And then the Bloom's taxonomy codes come from here. So you look at the objective and look at the action word that you have used, the behavior that you have used, and then that will give you which Bloom's taxonomy it is. What you want to look at is the fact that from the first lesson to the third lesson, you are progressing. That means you are going forward in discussing the Bloom's taxonomy. You're going towards synthesis, towards evaluation. So here is, you're going to put all your assessments from the lesson. Once again, you're going to use the codes from here to have, whether it is a pre-assessment, formative, post, or summative assessment. You have to have one pre and one post assessment. The easiest way to do this is the first assessment of the first lesson will be your pre-assessment, and then the last assessment of your last lesson, the third lesson, would be your post-assessment. That's the easiest way, and that is actually the recommended way to do it. Okay. Then again, you're going to use the codes is all of these. What is the mode for these assessments? Are they paper pencil? Are they performance? Are they observation? Are they alternate form? Remember, you cannot have all paper and pencil. If you have like a seesaw or something like that, that is a performance based and you have to design a rubric for it. If you have an observational checklist, then it is an observation and you have to design a rubric and attach it. An alternate form would be like a quizzes, a Kahoot, and things like that. You'll put your learning objectives and you have to differentiate instruction for the assessment. What are you going to do? An example I will give you is, let's say you're doing a Kahoot. To differentiate instruction, I will read the questions aloud if that is something that the students struggle with. If you have talked about reading levels in your part 1. Okay. So here is your materials, resources, and technology that you're going to put, just as you've been doing for your teaching lesson, the observation lesson. Then you have your instructional delivery. You are going to take out all of these questions, and then you will have before, during, remediation, after. This piece of assessment comes from your lesson. Remember how you had talked about the rationale for the assessment? So this is where you put the rationale for the assessment. So it will have as many. So if you have 3 assessments, it is going to have 3 bullet points because you are going to rationale as to why am I using an observational checklist? Why will I use a Kahoot? Why will I use a seesaw? What information does it provide to inform student learning? This is what comes over here. In this section, you are going to reflect. So you are going to think about what you're going to anticipate what students could misunderstand or have confusion with. And that is what you're going to put here. For your teaching lesson, you've done a reflection, you've taught that lesson. So you can add points from your reflection over here. But for the other 2 lessons that you include in your unit plan, you're going to think about the activities, you're going to think about when doing them, what could happen, and so what would be the errors and how would I solve those errors, is that part goes into here. Okay, so let me go back and then tell you once again. For this, you are doing your TEKS objective from your teaching lesson, because I want to know what was your teaching lesson. And then you are finishing up your lesson 1, finishing up everything about learning objective, TEKS, and this Bloom taxonomy, assessment, and this whole table will be filled. You have your materials, resources, and technology over here, your instructional delivery. This assessment part comes from your rationale of the assessments. Anticipate comes from looking at what could happen if you teach this unit, okay? And so then you're going to complete the whole first lesson, and then you will move on to your second lesson. So this is your second lesson. You'll do the same thing again, learning objective, TEKS, and Bloom's. What is the codes for those? Remember, you cannot have more than one code for one objective, okay? And so here is the same thing. So the whole first lesson has to be done, and then the whole second lesson is going to be done. And this is your second lesson. So let us talk about the rubric. So this is the part of the rubric that deals with the lesson plan, and all the 3 lesson plans are looked at it holistically. So, but there are some things for you guys to make sure you include in your unit plan. For example, like we have talked about the pre and the post assessments. If you don't have pre and post assessment, you are actually going down to this last level, because you have to have formative assessment, you have to have pre and post, and you also have to have multiple forms of assessment. For example, you have to have performance-based, paper pencil, rubric, observational, and alternate form. So all of them. You also have to have assessment aligned with technology. So when you plan your lesson, think about it in a way as to how you can include technology. This unit plan is actually more theoretical because you're not really going to do it in a classroom. So you can even go outside what technologies are available in your school, the school that you're doing or you are observing, to think about using technology and how the data is going to inform student learning. Remember when we talked about the rational aspect of it? So how is that data from that assessment, technology assessment specifically, is going to be used to inform student learning? Then another area is integrating technology. Now, there are some times when you do an assessment for technology. Let's example, I do Seesaw and I'm assessing them through Seesaw, but they're actually doing the activity on Seesaw. So that is also utilizes interactive digital tools and resources, okay, and supports the unit objective. However, let's say you're doing Plickers. Plickers is related to technology. It is a technology assessment. However, it does not involve interactive digital tools because it is more of the teacher doing it. If you are showing a video, that is a passive use of technology, not a active use or interactive use of technology. So be careful about those things. Your units, lessons are logically organized and closely related to the outcomes. That is very important. Then here you have your activities promote higher order thinking. So this is where your questioning also comes in, is are you using HOTS throughout the lesson? And your ideas to be developed, your writing to be coherent and organized. So this is what the rubric looks like when you are doing your lesson 1 and your lesson 2. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I am here to support you guys, and I look forward to providing you feedback on your part 2. Look at the due date that is there on the syllabus. If not submitted by the due date, I will not be providing feedback on part 2. So if you have any questions, please let me know.